So I have a quick update for you on the California cases which deal with the state's magazine ban, assault weapons ban, and ammunition restriction, which are currently set to be resolved this month. So let's talk about this. But real quick before we jump in this video, I just want to thank everybody who supports the channel, who's been watching the channel. Right now we are approaching 500,000 subscribers, which is absolutely amazing. So thank you to everybody who's been supporting the channel, who's subscribed to the channel. And if you're not currently subscribed to the channel, please consider subscribing. That really does actually help the channel to grow. Whenever you subscribe to a channel, it actually signals to the algorithm to push it more to more people, to people who maybe haven't been exposed to the channel yet. So if you would subscribe, I would greatly appreciate that. But regardless, thank you guys so much for all of your support. As I mentioned in the intro, in this video, we will be discussing the Duncan v. Bonta, the Miller v. Bonta, and the Rody v. Bonta California cases. These cases are challenging the state of California's ban on so-called large capacity magazines, the state's ban on so-called assault weapons, and also the state's ammunition background check restrictions. A lot of you have been asking me for updates on these cases, and there seems to be a little bit of confusion on some of these timelines, so I thought it was time for me to do a quick update. And also some other things have developed, some interesting things in regards to an order issued by Judge Benitez recently that is worth some mentioning. Now, I'm not going to go through all the procedural history of these cases. If you're interested in something like that, if you want that information, you can watch one of my prior videos on these topics. What you need to know for this video is that these cases have already been heard and have made their way up to the Ninth Circuit after Judge Benitez originally ruled that the magazine ban, the assault weapons ban, and also the ammunition restriction were in fact unconstitutional. After the Supreme Court issued their decision in New York State Rifle and Pistol Association v. Bruen, these cases were remanded back down to Judge Benitez for him to reconsider these cases in light of Bruen. One of the primary reasons for the remand of all these cases was because the Ninth Circuit's prior use of the two-step approach and the interest balancing approach, which was expressly rejected by the Supreme Court in Bruen. Because of the Supreme Court's decision in Bruen, these California cases are essentially starting from square one. They were sent back down to Judge Benitez, but Judge Benitez is trying his best to actually get these cases resolved as fast as possible. In the Duncan and Miller cases, the state of California made multiple attempts to try and push the cases out for as long as possible, often asking Judge Benitez at least for mid of 2023. Judge Benitez did in fact reject those attempts, but that did not stop the state of California from continuing to ask him for even more time. Now, all this came to a head at the beginning of last December on the 12th, when all three of these cases, along with the California Billy Club case, actually had hearings before Judge Benitez. All of these cases were heard during the same hearing before Judge Benitez. What ended up happening at the hearing was that Judge Benitez gave the state of California 30 days to present a spreadsheet to him of all the enacted laws and regulations which relate to the cases at hand. So Judge Benitez ordered the state of California to put together a spreadsheet of all the historical evidence that they can find within 30 days. Then the plaintiffs will have 30 days to rebut those examples. After that, there will be 10 additional days for both sides to file a reply if they want. So essentially, these cases have remained in a queue for another 70 days. The state of California wanted even longer, but Judge Benitez kept this to only 70 days. That means that the 30-day rebuttal to the spreadsheet is in fact due by this Friday, February 10th, and then the replies are due on Monday, February 20th, I believe. On Monday, February 20th, the entire 70 days is up. All the papers will have then been submitted to Judge Benitez, and then essentially we as California residents will have to wait, play the waiting game, and see ultimately how Judge Benitez decides to rule on all of these cases. Now, some of you have been asking me, why did Judge Benitez actually give them a little bit more time? And really the best answer I have for you is to likely mitigate some of the arguments that the state of California is going to present on appeal. The state of California has already signaled multiple times in prior briefs that they are likely going to try to argue to the Ninth Circuit that there was some sort of procedural error, or that they should have had more time to produce some sort of evidence required by Bruen. And I think Judge Benitez did this to mitigate some of those arguments that will likely pop up once the state of California decides to appeal these decisions. Now, the other interesting development that just happened in these cases is that Judge Benitez has in fact ordered California to file an additional 5-page brief that is going to be due by this Friday as well. And he ordered the 5-page brief, which is required to identify the best historical regulation that is a proper analog and relevantly similar to a statewide prohibition on possession of a firearm with listed features. So that one is specific to the Miller ban on so-called assault weapons. He also is requiring the same for a statewide background check for buying ammunition, that's the Rhodey case, and a statewide prohibition on the possession of ammunition devices or a limit on an amount of ammunition. That is going to be the Duncan v. Bonta magazine ban case. This order amounts to Judge Benitez requiring that California put forward their best arguments and their best evidence in a 5-page brief. The 5-page brief really forces California to not produce all the nonsense arguments that they traditionally will put forward in a brief, and instead to only present their best arguments and their best evidence in a single brief. And in my opinion, I think it's going to be really hard for the state of California to actually come up with some sort of restriction like this, some sort of historical evidence. And really, I think the arguments that they're going to present are likely going to be some sort of discriminatory law that we've seen them use in the past. The state of California has already presented these type of discriminatory laws in the spreadsheet that they submitted to Judge Benitez. And I would not be surprised if in the 5-page briefs we see these type of discriminatory laws pop up once again as the state of California's best evidence for the legality of these current bans. So it's going to be really interesting to see what type of historical evidence the state of California is going to present in the Miller, Rhodey, and Duncan case. What laws, statutes, or cases present the best evidence for these types of restrictions on magazines, so-called assault weapons, and also the ammunition background check system. Those are going to be presented in that 5-page brief, and it's going to be interesting, like I said, to see which ones they think support these types of restrictions in the state of California, because in my opinion, there are no supports, there is no historical evidence for what the state of California is doing. Now, another question I've been getting is practically how maybe people can prepare for the Miller and Duncan decisions. For Miller, really my best advice for you, or maybe the best way that you could potentially prepare, is simply to have additional or extra accessories in your stock. Just have them just in case a decision actually is issued that is favorable. It could be really the cheap standard stuff that you can swap out. And the likelihood is that if Judge Benitez does in fact strike down the assault weapons ban once again, there will be a request sought by the state of California for an immediate stay from the Ninth Circuit. And really that means that there may only be a short window open for you to maybe make modifications to your firearm. But keep in mind again that California will likely appeal that decision. So again, that window is going to be very short-lived. So practically simply having some sort of cheap accessory on hand is probably the best way in my mind for you to prepare for the Miller decision. And for the Duncan magazine case, really, my opinion is the best way you can prepare for that is to simply make sure you're financially sound, make sure you have some money, some funds in case that the decision goes our way and maybe there's another Freedom Week or a Freedom Period. And really just also keep in mind or keep an eye out or do some research on the best stores and websites that actually did a good job during Freedom Week, because there were a lot of gun stores in California and then there were a lot of websites online who would not ship to California residents or were not prioritizing California residents. So you're going to want to do some research, make sure you know what websites and gun stores are actually going to ship to residents and actually which ones are going to prioritize our orders, because again, a window could be very short-lived. And I know some of the websites, some of these stores were actually prioritizing California residents to make sure that they actually got their orders in before that window closed the last time. So again, that's really the practical ways you can prepare. So that is where this currently stands, and that's what we're looking forward to in these 3 cases, the Miller, Duncan, and Rhodey cases. This Friday, we will get the parties' historical argument briefs, along with that 5-page best evidence brief that the state of California is now required to submit. Then February 20th is going to be the final response briefs, which are due, and then we will essentially play the waiting game to see how Judge Benitez rules. So if you like this video and you would like to support the channel, one of the best ways to do that is to like, comment, and subscribe. All those things help to fuel the algorithm, and it signals to YouTube that you guys see value in these videos and in this type of 2A news. As always, I want to thank everybody who likes, comments, subscribes, who hits the notification bell, who shares these videos. You guys are directly impacting these videos, impacting this channel, and helping me to reach and educate more people than I could ever do on my own. So as always, thank you all for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And never forget, this nation was built by Armed Scholars, and this nation will be maintained by Armed Scholars.